Thank you for.
Okay, I think we're gonna start now. Shalom and welcome to all of our audiences from all over the world. My name is Yehuda Michael. I am a program director for entrepreneurship development at MCTC. Thank you for joining us today. My colleague Nuria Levy and I are very excited to have you with us for the first meeting of the lecture series titled Advancing Leadership Skills to Women. The overall objective of the series is to empower women to develop the essential strategies and mindset needed to maximize leadership potential and successfully achieve a professional goal. The series will hold 3 meetings. For the first meeting, which is today, we will focus on developing a personal brand and discuss a personal branding strategy, as well as challenges that women face in leadership. For the second meeting in February, we will focus on strategic thinking methods. And for our final meeting in March, we will focus on decision-making skills. We hope you will join us in all the 3 meetings. On the series, we will invite one Israeli professional as well as one Mishab Lamanai to speak, followed by the question and answer from you, the audience. Just to give you a brief description of who we are, MCTC is founded in 1961 by 2 visionary women, our former Prime Minister Golda Meir and Mina Ben-Zvi, MCTC's founding director, through Meshav, Israel Agency for International Development Cooperation at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. MCTC focused on 3 main areas. First one is entrepreneurship and innovation, the subject that Israel is well known in recent decades. As many of you know, Israel is named as a startup nation. We share our experience in this topic. The second subject is early childhood education, focused on building the next generation. And the final and the third focus is sustainable community development that focus on the socio-economic topic related to the society. We believe in women's contribution to the community and the country's economy. We stress gender equality is the key for sustainable development. Without further ado, let's move into today's lecture. I'm pleased to introduce you to one of our speakers for today, Dipika Trehan, Mashab Lamanai. Dipika Trehan is a founder of the H.O.W forum and Corporate Diva. Corporate Diva aims at transforming women professionals into women leaders. Dipika has been awarded as Top 100 Global Diversity and Inclusion Leader by ET Now. She is also listed as the top impactful women CEO, building women leaders in a time of COVID pandemic. Dipika Trehan attended our course on innovation in women health in 2018. Thank you, Dipika, for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you. Please take it from here.
Completely my pleasure to be here, Yehuda. So happy to be back to being in Israel virtually this time though, but a very warm welcome to the audience. Thank you so much for joining in, and I hope I'm able to do justice to your time today. I'm just going to share my screen. Please let me know when it's visible.
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much. A very, very warm welcome to each of the participants to this session. Women leadership development is a topic really, really close to my heart. I've been working on it for close to a decade now. And the journey began with getting cognizance of the statistics of, in terms of women being in decision-making positions. And I must confess, it wasn't a great number to see and have cognizance of, which is what got me passionately into developing more and more women leaders. And guess what? My realization through this entire close to a decade of work in this space is that every woman is a leader. I think it just needs that little nudge to ignite a spark within, which is inside all of us, to just take that one step forward towards building your own self. Which is why when Mashav, MCTC, and Nuri and Yehuda approached me for this, I was absolutely thrilled at that opportunity. because advancing women leadership skills is indeed a topic close to my heart. On that note, I'd like to begin my presentation. Sorry, I'm just gonna, yeah. I'm going to begin with the quote here. Again, a quote very close to my heart from a lady whom I hugely admire, which says that make the most of yourself by fanning that tiny inner sparks of possibility into flames of achievement, by Golda Meir. It's such a powerful quote because I've had a life journey, which I will talk about more during this presentation, wherein it actually needs just that one little spark to be identified. And if you fan that, you really can create a global impact, no matter at what stage you start off with. So when we're talking about advancing women leaders, let's identify a few iconic global women leaders from different corners of the globe. The most recent one being Kamala Harris from the US, Miss Sherry Blair, another lady whom I've been now associated and connected with since 2017. And we've stayed in touch, and someone who I really admire. Michelle Obama, I think her book Becoming was, and even her web series of Becoming was something which is really impactful because it was very close to life, very relatable. Jacinda is again a woman, huge kudos to the way she's handled what she's been doing. Oprah, Priyanka Chopra from my own home country, India, and Malala. I think these women have really raised the bar of women being noticed in leadership positions. However, now, when we talk about advancing leadership skills, I think advancement is a byproduct of awareness, acknowledgement, and that translating into action actually leads to advancement. And why do we need this advancement? We often hear that, why is there so much of emphasis on women leadership development, and why are we talking so much around this topic? Is because there are certain challenges that are absolutely unique to women. Challenges like, a woman who's maybe aggressive and logical is termed as someone who's bossy. There's sexism, there's inequality, there's exclusion, maternity happens. There's a lot of biases and stereotypes that she comes across, which is why the need for a sensitization of men and women alike on being inclusive and moving forward hand in hand, rather than secluding ourselves into vicinities of gender. So having said that, if you notice, all the women global icons that I showed earlier, none of them have had it easy. And yet they fought for what they deserved. And my idea of bringing forth these slides are going to be that just to emphasize on the fact that when it comes to bias, when it comes to stereotypes, we often feel that I'm alone. Why is it happening to me? Just because I'm a woman. But I think all of these are realities that happen universally. The degree may vary, but the World Economic Forum numbers show that we really need to kind of address to this gap of the gender gap of women in leadership. For example, Kamala Harris, I mean, she is now the vice president or the first woman vice president of the first country, which is the United States of America. But the first country itself took about 200 plus years to have a woman at that position. Coming to Sherry Blair, there was a recent interview that I heard of hers, which was like an eye opener. That when she passed her law degree and was awarded the certificate, her father's name was to be mentioned on that. And I think that's what she mentions in that interview as well. That was probably the first rebellious move that she made, where she said that my mom single-handedly brought me up from the age of 8 because her father walked away. So I think whatever she is, she owes it to her mom, and it's the result of what her mother's contribution in her life and education has been. So she actually got her mother's name replaced, her father's name replaced by her mother's name in the certificate. and gave a woman her due in terms of acknowledgement, in terms of appreciation. Next comes Michelle Obama. She became the first African American first lady. If you've seen the Netflix series on Becoming, there is a point which really catches your eye where she says that here she was all set to be on stage as the first lady. And when she looked at her mother was still searching for where her brother was. And she said, "Ma, what more does it take than being the first lady to get your attention?" So somewhere there are, biases that we encounter. Let's take Jacinda for that matter. Being a politician, being the top woman in the decision making position in New Zealand. There were I hugely admired the pictures which were from the parliament where her child was along. So I think we've got to open up to the fact that women can lead. Their competencies, their potentials are not dependent on what their personal responsibilities are, or what their genders are. It has to be neutralized to competency and potential. Um, Moving on, Oprah. Oprah wasn't paid anywhere close to her male colleagues, and which is where she took that bold decision of stepping out, bringing forth her own network, which is the Oprah Winfrey Network, and ensured from there on, at least in that was the starting point for her to ensure that the gender pay gaps don't exist. And coming to Priyanka Chopra, she spent her early, years of high school in the United States, and where she, in her recent interview, also mentioned that she was called Brownie and Curry, and look at her today. She's a global icon, not only for her home country, India, but also for the country where she was bullied in. So I think it's all about flaming that spark within you. And a lot of that depends on your inner potentials. And most importantly, it depends on how much are you aware of your potentials and capabilities, and how ready are you to bring them onto the table and deliver them. And that is a turning point which marks in every woman who's reached a leadership position and has transitioned into being an icon, is that not only did they become self-aware, they became self-aware unapologetically. They owned every highs and lows of their own, and definitely were open to evolution, and we have seen evolution in them. But they come across as women who are authentic, completely unapologetic for being the person that they are. And what's important is no compromise on the skill they bring to the table. So our competencies, our potentials are hugely important, but I think the one turning point, one critical point, is women owning their own abilities. And in that journey, you're not alone. The reason why I so passionately work towards building women leaders is I've kind of been through an entire life cycle of a woman professional, right from being a very driven and aspiring youth at work to, life happens. So marriage happened, moving out of my home country happened, maternity happened, and then was me grappling to get back to my corporate expertise, which were in HR training and development, and finally realizing my true north in terms of realizing my purpose, which started with women's health and has translated into the importance of women's well-being and her potential, her competency development as a leader at work. So going back a little, when we're talking about all these biases and stereotypes, I think they just, we kind of get a terminology like let's say an imposter, or let's say a stereotype, but to translate that closer home to a relatable example, growing up, I was a plump child and an overweight, young adult. And I was body shamed. I was, to the extent my peer group would call me baby elephant. So that left a huge dent growing up, because who doesn't want to be, nice and attractive in her youth and fit into societal standards? but I didn't, and which is why I struggled and I was body shamed. That led on to a lot of self-doubt, a lot of, I wouldn't say non-awareness of self-potential, but a lack of confidence in realizing my own potentials. And we all live, mostly, again, to varying degrees, uh, experience a very patriarchal work ecosystem. And that's where, when a woman is soft spoken, is taken as underconfident. Whereas the moment she gets assertive and logical, she is termed as bossy. But one thing changed in my life, and that was way back in 2010, is where I was probably in the lowest phase of my life, personally, professionally. I was in and out of sabbatical, was a new mother, grappling with challenges of getting back to work, not finding my true north in the work that I was doing back then. And then coming to realize that I think all these years, I've prioritized everybody other than self. And things don't seem to have worked really well. So why not take that one decision and pivot things around by starting to prioritize myself? It started with prioritizing my well-being, my health. And if you see the then and now picture here, I mean, it's not a weight loss journey that I like to kind of talk about. What I want to talk about here through that picture is the then was a state of chaos, internal and external. And it was visible externally as well. That was because I was giving in to whatever uh, I could have taken a call and not given into. I was encountering a lot of scenarios which I wasn't able to handle by myself. And the now you see me as a far more confident, a far more in charge of my own credibilities, is because when I invested that time, effort, and energy into nurturing and nourishing my own self, things changed, and things changed for the better, and there's been no looking back. So yes, now when I'm assertive and logical, I call myself a leader unapologetically. Today, when we at Corporate Diva are coming up with innovative ideas towards developing women leaders, thinking out of the box, that's innovation. The innate nurturing capability of a woman, today the world is talking about empathetic leadership, speaking up, sharing an opinion, something that, women are often shied away from, right? Today, I've learned to own my voice unapologetically and make it heard. Because today, one is in a space of complete confidence in one's competencies and potentials. That's the bigger part of the journey. Being a founder, being a CEO, being a decision maker, each day is a day of breaking glass ceilings. There are glass cliffs that are lined forward as well, and one is finding ways every now and then to segue through them and transition into a position of decision making without compromising on the competencies, the potentials of it, but definitely completely in alignment with goal, with my purpose, and with my leadership capabilities, which I identify and lead with. So I think this particular slide talks a lot about a journey of a woman's life and a translation of the impact that she can make the moment she gets more cognizance of the power of self. Wherever you are in your leadership journey, each one of us here, whether we're a corporate employee or we are self-employed, an entrepreneur, whatever stage that we are, whether we're in a stage of confusion and still, we think that we're in an endless tunnel, we're in the state of frustration where we don't see things happening, we're kind of comfortable, or we're good and optimistic. Even now, I invest time, effort, energy into my own self-development. So there is always scope for evolution. And the evolution happens because very, very subtle things that are actually in our surroundings, in our ecosystem, is an identification of that actually turns out to be a tip and a tool for our success. What is important is, how bad do you want to succeed? How important is that success for you? So which is why that fire of what you aspire to be got to be more powerful than what you mere desire to be. And there is a difference between aspiration and just desiring something. And then we come to the fact that how much is good enough for you? Or do you really want to have that more and more? So, like I always believe in the universe, I don't think no one ever goes hungry. Each gets nourished. However, only to the degree of that fire in your belly. Trust you me, when I started this women leadership development platform, it was a constant struggle every day, right from the conception of its name as corporate diva, because I would walk into organizations, I would walk into corporates talking about leadership development, and I had so many of them just coming back to me and saying, it's not another diva program, so it must be another beauty pageant for women at work. And it's been a constant struggle. Today, I proudly, when I look back, today corporate diva has a name, has an understanding to itself. And that understanding and presence came from the fact of me being, insistent, perseverant, determined, and ready to take up any challenge that came my way. But I didn't want to move out of the path that I so purposefully got into. So it's all about how bad you want it. And are you ready to embrace your authentic self? Often, especially with my experience with women, we have a different understanding of ourselves. And that understanding is more of what we, we fit ourselves into to please the world and for the world to have that perception. But I think courage comes into a woman the moment she falls in love with herself. It's extremely important. It sounds like a cliche, fall in love with yourself, but trust you me, having experienced the power of it myself, I can vouch for the authenticity of that power of falling in love with yourself. And on this note, I'd like to say that I am definitely in this journey with you. The important part is, are you with me? A few tools that really helped me in my leadership journey was to leverage and enhance my existing network. All the while, I thought that, hey, I'm not currently employed, or maybe I'm just stepping out as being an entrepreneur. I don't have much contacts. But you know what? When I actually one day sat down and looked at my phone book from my mobile, I realized that I have enough a network to begin my work with and from. I think I was being my own limiting factor. So let's work towards diminishing those limiting factors for our own selves, putting away the roadblocks that we ourselves put in our way of self-doubt. And then it's a whole spectrum out there. My one advice, again based on experience, has been never factor in your immediate ecosystem for support. Always take that as a bonus. Go outside, take that challenge, plunge outside, reach out to people whom you don't know much of and who don't know much of you. Because your inner ecosystem may have seen you a little inconfident because you were then stepping up on your journey or through a high and low. So they would see you from that lens. They've already built a perception about you. But somebody in your outer ecosystem is one who will look at you with a larger lens. They will look more at you from your credibility perspectives. So definitely channelize your outer ecosystem. Invest in yourself. Every day is something that I constantly focus on. Invest in yourself. Often we women go and buy a piece of jewelry. We value it so much. We go and buy something for ourselves. We value it so much. We do not value the investment, and the return on investment that you get on the investment itself is colossal. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a physical shape and size for assessing tangibility, but it's colossal when you look back at your journey. And once you've invested in self, that learning never goes waste. And that's something that we're doing at corporatediva.com, is where we're building women leaders and guiding them towards being more effective leaders. And the journey starts from within. And on that conclusive note, I'd like to say to all men and women here, it is only together that we can make a difference. The important element for us women in particular is never fear failure, because failure or negative feedback should not be setbacks. I personally treat them as a free of cost audit of self. uh, Take that in that stride. It gives you scope for evolution. It gives you scope for polishing. And I can also say, besides, of course, Barbara, who quoted this, that my best successes came on the heels of my failure. Never fear failure. Invest in yourself. Do fall in love with yourself. There is immense power in self. It just needs to be unlocked at lock. On that note, thank you so much for this brief interaction. Kind of create a day, at least from
I think you have a technical problem with Dipika. Dipika, are you with us? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Welcome back.
I'm back. I hope I was able to complete my presentation, or did I just get knocked off?
We heard you like when you start to say thank you. The last section we didn't hear, but
Awesome. Awesome. So at least I got to
if you have a
complete my
few
presentation.
words to say, just please do so.
No, I would just like to thank everybody. I know this was brief, this was quick, but I hope it created that one dent in your thought process in terms of prioritizing yourself. Each one of us are powerhouses. We've just got to reckon with that fact. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Nuria, please.
Okay, so thank you, Dipika. It's really lovely to see you, your beautiful smile all the way from India. And once more, I'd like to welcome all of those participants from all over the world, including Latin America. It's awfully early for you. We have some Sandra Flores from the National Assembly of Venezuela, as well as our ambassador in Honduras. It's really a pleasure to have you here. And now I'm going to give the word to Sandra Ziv. Before we do so, just to remind you that you can ask questions for our speakers. If you kindly write them in the chat, we will take some questions after Sandra speaks. So Sandra, it's so lovely to see you. We worked many courses together in the past, so it's really lovely to have you with us. Sandra is a freelance marketing professional working with startups in the biomedical industry. She has more than 20 years experience in providing complete turnkey solutions for startup companies, whatever needs they may have. She has consulted for companies including BRH Medical, Tag Dental, Bendit Medical, Real Bioimaging, and many, many more. From 2012 to 2014, Sandra served as Director of Marketing at the University of Haifa International School Department. She was responsible for the development of institutional agreements, new programs, recruitment, and marketing strategy for the recruitment of international students. Sandra has been lecturing in several events around the world, including obviously for Mashav courses, also in Botswana and Jamaica. She holds a BA from the Sorry, I don't understand. My microphone, for some reason, got turned off. As I was saying, she holds a BA from the University of Wisconsin in Madison and an MA from Bar-Ilan University here in Israel. She also is currently a PhD candidate at the Haifa University. Sandra, it's a real pleasure once more to be with you. And please feel free to get started with our lovely audience.
Okay, I'll just share my screen. 1 second. There it is, this one. Okay. Everyone see? Fine? Yes, good. Okay, well, it really is a true pleasure to be here. And as Nuria said, I've been working with Mashav for many years and hosting groups in Israel, in the institution in Haifa. I love having all the groups, and it's always very interesting how Mashav is able to take my marketing skills and integrate it into so many different areas. And I think it's really special because not everyone sees it that way. So let me begin. As you see, I call my lecture Becoming a Leader, It's Your Choice. And I'd like to explain a little, I'd like to tell a little anecdote which kind of leads into that subject. I remember it stood out very clearly. We were a group of people going to a conference, an international conference, and we were all in the same field, biomedical, and we go to the same conferences all the time. So we kind of know everyone, but not really. Each time someone's new, but we're all kind of getting together in line at to check in at the airport. And this woman catches my eye. And you have to understand, in the field of high technology and biomedical in particular, I'm usually the only woman there. There are some other women, usually in marketing, but it's a very male-oriented industry. So this woman stood out, and she was tall, that's true, and she was dressed very nicely, considering we were in the airport. You know, some people dress more casual. And within about 5 minutes, this woman succeeded to lead the entire group. I mean, we were all very experienced travelers in the conferences, but somehow this woman had something, and she became the leader. She led us all. We were all following her. And so it's always thought to me, like, how did she do it? How did she take that stage? And it ties really closely into what Dipika was saying, because it was very clear she was a leader. Her whole being was, this is me, and I'm taking the lead here. I know what I'm doing. And so what I'm trying to, this little story is saying is that you choose you choose to be a leader. And once you make that choice, you can make it happen. So first, what I'd like to do is, wait, let me see if I can, okay, is tell you a little bit about myself. And I purposely put that photo there because I have many sides to me. But I am a marketeer, and I've been working for many years, as Nuria said, with Mashav. And I recently got a master's degree in philosophy of science, and I'm moving on towards my doctorate in the history of high tech. But I really am a marketeer. And I put this photo here on purpose because if you notice the photo that, for instance, Dipika showed, it was a little bit different from this one. I'll get to more of that later. So what I'm basically saying is leaders are not born. There are many types of leaders. Very, very few are born. And you know what? We don't even know, because we meet them when they're already leading. But I would say that every leader has taken what they've had and gone forward. So if we look right now, women are governing something like 18 countries and over 500 million people globally. That's 7% of the population. Bangladesh, Ethiopia, Scandinavia, Singapore, women are emerging, especially in the political market, in the political forum. Not all these women were born to lead. Maybe one out of all of them was born to lead. But all of these women, they trained, they learned, they observed, and they chose to become leaders. And so can you. So I like this quote. It's not from a woman, although, but it's very important for the way I look at leading, because it's important to be about yourself, but you're not by yourself leading. You're leading those behind you. So that's what you have to be aware of. How do you connect to your group that's following behind? And every leader has a style. What kind of leader do you want to be? Forceful, cooperative, tough, fair, charismatic. All styles, it could all be part of the same. So how do I look at it? I call it your brand. Very marketing. How do you build your brand? Well, let's see. We're calling your leadership style is similar to a brand. And you're wondering, everyone uses a brand, but what is a brand? It's an asset. It represents your face. You're recognizable, your clothing, your smile, the background, the way you're always shown. Who are you networking with? All of this is part of your brand, especially when you go public. If you're keeping it local, so people know you, they're like, she doesn't come off very professional, but once you start talking to her, she's got the stuff. That's okay in your smaller network. But once you go public, you have to present a brand that you want to promote. Who are you? That is what you need to show out. And once you've created a positive brand with a positive feel around your brand, around who you are, you gain by just people seeing you, hearing your slogan. You're already 2 or 3 steps ahead. And some brands you already get feelings about. And this is something that you want to do. When you see that photo of Oprah, it's usually very familiar. You feel like she's your friend. She does also do those photos in the fancy dresses. But when you see Oprah, you're like, this woman, I can relate to her. She's relatable. That's her brand. So if we think of some of the brands, you want to get a feeling for them, like Greenpeace. Greenpeace, you say Greenpeace and you get a good feeling about it. You say Disney, you think family. I found an African textile firm, Daiki. You look at that beautiful graphic and you feel warm, you feel ethnic, you feel local. When you see Johnson & Johnson, you think of I think of baby cream, baby shampoo. So you get a feeling and these are logos, and we're not talking a person. You can do a logo, but you need your person to present part of your brand. So I also showed some photos, of some women that I also admire. But what's more important I'd like to show is just these 3 photographs. And that's also part of the brand. And when I work with the group in Mashav with political leadership, we do a whole workshop on photography, because that, especially now in the internet, which is so visual, video and posts and photos, you want to make sure that your photo presents that type of leader you are. So if we look at these 3 different photos, we see 3 very different leaders, and just by what they're wearing. So we see Kamala. I looked through the internet. I have never seen her not in a suit. She is always wearing a suit. And I haven't done much research on Shabana Azmi, but we see she's traditional. And this is part of who she is. This is her brand. This is how she wants to be perceived as a leader. And I also took Golda Meir. Golda Meir was Israel's first prime minister, first female prime minister, only female prime minister. And one of the first in the world, as a matter of fact. She presented the same image always. A grandmother, a little bit dowdy. She never wore nice shoes. She never wore nice clothes. This was who she was. She wanted to be familiar. She wanted the country to accept her as their almost mom. And that's why when she failed, it was such a poor, it was a very serious failure. But this is the image that she wanted to present. So now that we've talked a little bit about the background, about building your brand, now we need to take it one step further. And I'm talking marketing. It's not enough to decide who you are and to make that commitment. You need to also look at who are you leading? Who is your audience? If you're going to be trying to lead in an area that's very conservative and, you know, a woman is not that well accepted, well, so you're not going to come out and saying, yes, I also have tattoos and I have 5 earrings here. And because you're trying to talk to your group, to your followers in a language that they'll accept you. And that's, of course, as a woman, you're already crossing barriers. So what you need to think, and together with who are you leading, is what kind of leader will make me the most effective for them? Because it's not enough for me to be an effective leader. I need to be effective for them. Where am I taking them? And why should they join me? What can I offer that will have people come on board to follow me? Why would they join me? And part of that is also what is the reason for my group, my nonprofit, my political party? What are we trying to prove or change? And the last is how. How do I want to make my agenda happen? And these are marketing questions. It has nothing to do with necessarily with female leadership, but this is all part of you getting your agenda together as a leader. So what I'd like to do now, hopefully I had asked Nuria to send this little diagram in advance to all of you by email, and you can download it. I think it's as part of our presentation here. This is an exercise that I do, as a matter of fact, with my innovators and entrepreneurs. And it's really special, and it really ties in so clearly with what Dipika was saying. Because in order for you to be a good leader, you first need to know what you're good at and what you can offer. And so often women don't give themselves enough credit for what they know and what they can offer. And it's really surprising to me how over and over I see that. So let's talk a little bit about this pyramid, and then I'd like to give, believe it or not, a couple minutes for us to do it together, kind of as a workshop. I usually do this as a workshop. I'm going to try to do it a virtual workshop. So if you see the pyramid, we see this basically is how we're built. We have on the bottom a very strong base. That base are our personal qualities and our characteristics. It's what we're born with, basically. I mean, we can change an attitude. It also includes an attitude, and you can change your attitudes. But in general, these are the qualities that we're given. They're cosmos given. They're God given. And so, who am I? That's who that answers. And I gave some examples of my own self. I'm good at networking. I have a positive attitude. I'm a team worker. I love to learn. I'm curious. These are all parts. This is all this attribute, personal quality. It's the basis. After that, we build on top of us. On top of that, we add skills to us. We add skills. What do I do? These skills are, and let me go back and say, there are no clear lines. There are clear lines, but they're really not. There's no wrong or right in this exercise. That's for sure. So the adaptive skills are skills that you've taken on through the years, either as a parent or as a friend or even in your job. You were hired for one thing, you ended up doing another thing. I'm hired to write, and sometimes I have to do graphics. I'm hired to write a marketing plan. Sometimes I have to do math, which is like not my skill. These are adaptive skills. What do I do? So for instance, I put for myself, I'm good at computers. I'm a good speaker. I write very well. I organize. I learned how to organize. So now I've determined my bottom, my base. I've taken on skills. And then on top of that, I add my knowledge, what I know, what I've gone to school with, what is my particular expertise. Often, many women, they get lost in between the specific knowledge and the adaptive skills. I tell this story. I was doing a workshop at Mashav, and we were doing this exercise. And I always ask for everyone's resumes so I know who I'm talking to. And one of the women, she filled in the qualities, she filled in the skills, and she's like, I don't know, I don't have much specific knowledge. I work in the organization. And I look at her resume and I said, you're an MD. You went to medical school. She said, yeah, but I haven't worked in it, and I use it, but not. I said, but that is very specific knowledge. And if you remember that you have done 8 years of schooling, you got into med school, 8 years of schooling, and you've chosen not to be there, that's even more important. And don't forget that. When you're writing down your knowledge, don't forget that. And so what's important is that we know what we can offer. And instead of saying, no, I just, it's true that all the kids and their moms come to my house every afternoon and I do their hair, and I've developed this special hair cream. And so like, it's almost like I have a business. People are coming all the time. You have a business, lady. You are a hair professional. You've done it, and they come to you because you are a professional. Acknowledge what you have. Okay. So Nuria, I didn't keep track of time. How much time do I have? Are we good? Do we have a couple minutes for the exercise?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Good. So I know this is kind of strange and I can't see you doing it, but I'd like you to take now a couple minutes. I'd like to I will time you 2 minutes. And I would like you to literally fill in the 3 different triangle or areas that we have here of attributes. I'd like you to fill in your personal qualities, write them down. What are your personal qualities? What are your characteristics? Who are you? And go on and go to the next level. What are your skills? What skills have you developed? Have you developed computer skills that you were never trained for? Have you developed networking possibilities? Have you developed organizational? You know how to cook? Have you started cooking? Have you learned how to cook? You had no choice. And then lastly, what's your specific knowledge? What knowledge can you bring to the table? What is your education? What is your special attribute that only you can offer? So I'll give you another minute to think about it. And it's very hard sometimes to make the difference. Like, for instance, I wasn't trained in biomedical devices, but because I've worked for 20 years in biomedical devices, I consider that specific knowledge. My degree, for instance, was in English literature. So I don't put it as a knowledge, although I do write. So it's never a very clear-cut answer. I would always say, give yourself the benefit of the doubt, and don't worry if you put 2 things in the same, if you put like cooking as an adaptive skill, but it's also a specific knowledge, because maybe it started as a skill and then you developed it into a major career. So I hope everyone had the opportunity to work a little bit to feel about who they are and what they bring to the table as leaders. So I'd like to thank you all. I hope I've given a little bit of my own knowledge to helping you all grow, expand, and grow into amazing leaders. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sandra. That was a lovely exercise, which if you haven't had a chance to do it yet, you can still download from the chat. You've got the link there and you can download it if you didn't receive my email ahead of this session. So I'm going to pass it on to my colleague Yuda for some questions for our two speakers.
Okay. Sorry, I wasn't mute, just speaking while I was mute. Thank you, Sandra, and thank you, Nuria, also. We do have a few questions. I want to start with Dipika. The first question I want to ask you is, a lot of women have a problem with trusting their own voice, although they're qualified to do certain tasks. What is your advice for women that are saying, like, who am I, and to do this?
Thanks for that question, Yehuda. It's a very valid question. And the first thing is finding your own voice itself is a journey, and it requires investment of time and effort. It doesn't come easy. In fact, the amount of time and that you would allocate to your own self-analysis and self-understanding is probably the most critical time. After that, it's pretty easy. It's once you cross that barrier. So I think when you're struggling with owning your voice or finding your voice, it's important to sit back and introspect. What is it that's holding you? Is it any societal pressures that are holding you? Are you trying to fit into something? Are you trying to live up to others' expectations? What is it that's holding you back? Once you get cognizance of that, then you kind of get back again on introspection to yourself and say that, all right, now I identify what's holding me back. What can I do to put myself forth? Do I have the right kind of knowledge? Do I trust my credibilities? Do I trust my voice? Am I shy of talking it out? If you're shy of talking it out, use the mirror at home and speak to the mirror itself. And that just brings in a little more extra confidence because you see a reflection of yourself. But if that's not what is holding you back, it is something deeper. Then I would also suggest, in your journey of owning and identifying and voicing yourself, do take expert help. I think women shy from asking and reaching out for help. We often wear that superwoman cape that I'll be able to do it all, or I can manage it all, or I'll handle it all. But I think we need to learn the art of having our ask clear and asking for help and guidance where we can. So if you can do it yourself, great. If you're still struggling, reach out to an expert who will help you just cross that little hurdle of yours, and then you're good to go.
Thank you, Dipika, for a brief explanation. Thank you so much. Now I want to move to Sandra. And the question for you would be, what is your answer for people that are asking, how do I make my personal brand stand out?
Well, building your brand is a process. And of course, we are really in a whole different world now because it's virtual. And so basically, it's all online. So let's start with the basic. I wouldn't even do the Instagram, Facebook. Let's start with LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a platform, professional platform. Look at who your mentors, what they write. It's very important. There's a description that comes up when you look for LinkedIn. So what do you want that description? Do you want it to be innovator, leader, gender issues? How do you want to define yourself? And that's how it starts. And it always starts with that photo, especially because we're virtual and it's hard. You won't meet them. There's none of these networking conferences. Everything we used to do is basically down to a photo and a post. So get your video up there. I judge in a competition, and until now I was getting PowerPoints. Now I'm getting videos. That's where we are. So that's how you start. Make your message clear.
Thank you, Sandra. Nuria, do you want to ask a question?
Yes, we have a couple of questions from the audience. So what can be done if you're the only vocal person in your team, in your office? I mean, you always speak your mind, and other things, as other people think, is pride. What would be your advice?
I'd like to take that. I would
Yes.
say own your pride. Be proud of yourself. If you're not proud of yourself, how do you expect others to be proud of you? So own your voice. The other thing is that there is a perception that women are talkative. And if you think that you're the only one talking in that room, or the only one in your team who actually takes the initiative of talking, and there could be a sense where the other people say, oh, she's all the time talking, so here's just another one, and they overlook the relevance and importance of you, then I think take that again as a ready reckoner to just evaluate, what are you talking, how meaningful is it, run it past through you, and have that little filter, and then say it out. I'd also like to kind of express here is that your authenticity and your command over the language, it could be your native language or a generic English language or whatever, but understanding that language and understanding the art of taking pauses while expressing yourself is something which is hugely beneficial, because it gives a little bit of a mind space for the other person to resonate with that thought, come in sync with you, and then take that conversation forward. So my my 2 cents to this question will be that, one is, be proud of yourself. If you're saying something which is logical, which is making sense, and you're the only one saying, all the more be proud of yourself. However, be in charge of what you're saying. How meaningful is it? Is it really relevant? And hope you're not over talking. Those are 2 cents from my end.
Thanks, Dipika. That's great. We've got another comment and another question regarding how do you teach the youth to become strong leaders for the future? Are there any leadership roadmap to be implemented for enhancing human capital in the regional level? Dipika.
Sandra, so great. I would have wanted to grab that question because it's so close to my heart yet again. But I'd say the easiest way of I wouldn't say influencing the youth, however, getting them towards leadership ready, is to invest in the existing ecosystem and create more and more role models. The more and more role models that they have, the more leadership as a trait becomes more relatable to them. Not only does it become relatable to them, it also builds that pool of people that they can reach out to for support and guidance. Instead of them just banking on maybe one expert or one professional, but when you're investing in that ecosystem, you're creating more expertise for not only for deliveries and productivity, you're also generating that pool of mentors, of leaders, of role models whom the youth can reach out to for guidance and help. And again, to the youth as well, I think with the youth probably is the other way around. They're far more overconfident about themselves than underconfident. So pulling strings a little bit here and there, getting them as close to reality and as close to getting more knowledge. The one thing that we've noticed with youth, and I can say that for the youth that I've interacted with, is that they read a paragraph, they feel they've read the book or they know the book. We've got to invest in their learning capacities. So invest in their learning capacities, build a pool of an ecosystem of guidance which is at their reach, and of course, enable them also to invest in self.
Great, thanks, Dipika. Another question for you. how do you get over the imposter feeling? Is it a matter of fake it or make it? And, oh, sorry, fake it until you make it.
You know, that's a saying I've heard quite often, but I can also tell you that in the real world, the moment you fake it, people know it. Your audience will always be far more intelligent than what you think them to be. So I'm a huge champion of authenticity. Again, I would say good, bad, ugly. We're all in a learning journey. We're all in an evolution journey. We will make mistakes. We will. There are times that, you know, I've said something completely out of the context, made a fool of myself. When I look back at it, I realized, oh yeah, I should have not made that comment. I should have taken it to a different tangent and all of that. But I wouldn't have realized that had I not made that mistake. So, you know, the imposter is that where the tussle is going within. Should I say? Should I not say? If I say, how will they take it? If they don't take it well, they would laugh at me. They would mock at me. I would say cut those conversations out. The only filtration probably you need within is it relevant? Am I talking what is needed to be spoken out and voiced out? Is it in context with that conversation, or is my input of adding any value? Those are the conversations that should be happening, not the conversations of what if somebody says that. There's always going to be a what if. There is always going to be, no matter how well you do, there will always be that percentage of people who will turn back to you and say that, no, nah, I didn't find much value in it. That's all right. You know where you are at whatever trajectory of your life cycle that you are. You understand that, yes, I'm also on an evolution path. This is to the best of my current knowledge. If value can be added on to that, I'll absorb to that value. If I make a mistake, I'll apologize for that mistake. But I would never learn the right way until I actually go out and do it. So stop doubting yourself. And once you start doing that, you'll realize that 70 to 80% you are bang on target. The rest, 20, 30% is your, you know, that little scope of learning and evolving.
Thank you, Dipika. Thank you. I want to ask actually Sandra a question about branding. What is the career advantage of branding for women in general?
Oh, that's interesting. I would say that very often getting to where we want to go in our career, it's a process. And by making sure we know where we want to go by creating our brand of who I am energetic, cooperative, and interested in health, let's say. So I put together that brand for myself. And the way, and by putting that together, that as a clear message, I'm able to promote that. And in that respect, I'm going to direct my career in that with that brand. I wouldn't put together a brand that said I was a scientist working in a lab, the smartest, the best. You know, I got a $100,000 grant and a full scholarship. If that's not what I mean, I might have done that, but that's not the kind of leader I want to be. I want to be a leader who is cooperative and energetic and whatever I said, I don't remember. But so what I'm saying, it's part of the process. It's the package. You get it together and you use that to go forward in that direction. And it takes us back to those questions: who, why, how, what. Wait, it's where, how, no, the W's and the H. And that's what it comes down to.
The W and H questions, always. Thank you. I want to ask you a follow-up question on that. Not everyone is really knowing how to brand themselves, or what is the steps that are taken. What books or resources do you think is good as a starting point? Because there's a lot of things in the internet, but is there anything that you recommend where to start from?
I don't know offhand. I'd have to think about it. Because there are more and more, there is more literature out that has, like, is what I'm doing, is taking marketing out of the corporate and the commercial world and bringing it into social responsibility. But I'm not there, so I don't want to say. But I'll definitely send. I'll look up. I'll consult with people, and I'll let's say today's Thursday. Next week, I'll send some recommendations for reading.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Sandra. No, just a general
Can
question.
I interrupt here a little,
Yes, please.
Yoda? And I'm going to take that thread on from Sandra. I think if you're struggling with establishing your brand, that pyramid that Sandra spoke about, I've done it myself as well. And I can tell you, if you're struggling with it, take that particular pyramid as your starting point. Because when you actually put your thought into it, it takes a while. It's not an easy, it looks very simple, just a 3-step thing. But trust you me, we hugely underestimate our competencies. So when we've got to put it down on pen and paper, it takes an extra effort. But I can tell you for sure, the tool that Sandra spoke about is a fabulous tool in understanding what your competencies are, which you further can translate into your brand, because that's an exercise I've personally done and I can vouch for it that it works.
Thank you,
to interrupt,
Dipika.
Sandra.
Thank you, Dipika.
Thank you. Okay, I think we have an interruption from someone.
Sorry about that. It is.
One more question that I want to ask is, how do you tackle gender stereotypes, all this process, whether it is in branding yourself or whether in throughout the process of getting into leadership? Unfortunately, we have a lot of gender bias and inequality that are facing. How do we tackle that?
If I could say something, I'm not out there, and I'm not a researcher in sociology and gender, but from my experience in the world of biomedical and engineering, unfortunately, one of the only ways that women can go ahead in business, in my business, is by getting that engineering degree. So a degree education provides a stamp of approval in this industry that's far superior to any other thing that that person can bring to the table. So I would say the same thing goes for so many of the other careers. If we look at our politicians, almost all of them have professional degrees. And I know that not everyone has the same access to education, but for those women who are really serious about moving forward, especially in the political or in commercial, I really firmly believe that it starts with professional degrees. And whenever I've been in all these startups, so many startups, there's always technicians that do the little startup work with the prototypes. And so often some of the girls come to me and they're like, how can I get involved? I'm like, go get an engineering degree. That's it. So I don't know. I must say, this is from my personal experience. I can't say that there's research, and I don't know. And maybe Dipika has more practical knowledge she can add. But always not always, but it's a huge added value for every woman if they start with a professional education.
I'd absolutely agree to that, Sandra. I think even today as a mother, when I have to guide my daughter who's graduating out of high school very soon, the one thing that I tell her, though she's very creatively inclined and she's artistically inclined and all of that, that's great. So it's in a way really awesome that she knows what her calling is and what's the area that she'd like to pursue. However, unfortunately, or howsoever we'd like to take it, our degrees are something that establish the first moment of truth in terms of credibility. So I definitely agree with that aspect of, try and get yourself educated in the area of expertise that you'd like to specialize in. That's one. Coming to gender biases, stereotypes that we face, and actually the Corporate Diva Forum recently did a campaign on Make the Right Decision, which was women coming forth and speaking up on biases and stereotypes. I think education, awareness is hugely important. Second is, and I always say that to all the women who attend our cohorts, is that in a crowd, and given the world's population or whatever, until you're cloned, you are your unique self. You bring that one unique element onto the table that nobody else can. As soon you must put an effort to identify that one unique skill that you bring to the table, and then be that individual in your ecosystem where if anybody knows, oh, it's this topic, you know what, she is the expert on it. So you get guided onto there. So you then become that magnet that attracts the right kind of people and the right kind of expertise and the right kind of, visibility and presence. But for that, you need to invest first in your degrees, get a stability in terms of credibility, then go on further in identifying your true skill that you bring to the table, and then polish it over and over again until you become that go-to person where in that area people say, oh, for example, in our ecosystem with the corporates that I engage with, when it comes to women leadership development, I've constantly worked on my personal brand and the work that we do so that women leadership starts becoming synonymous to what we're doing. So then you'd fight, you're not into that challenge of biases and people judging you and all of that. You've established credibility, you've shown your skill repeatedly, and you're constantly investing in polishing that skill. You will be visible, you will be seen.
We have a
Thank
saying
you.
in marketing that's called a USP, your unique selling property. And that's what Dipika's saying, that you find your unique selling property and make it shine. And there's no gender involved. There's a person with knowledge and experience who can help us. Doesn't matter the gender.
Amazing. Thank you so much, both Dipika and Sandra, for today, for your thoughts, for your experience and knowledge and wisdom. And we want to thank all our audience. We actually had a really nice interactive chat with the participants, so much so that we're going to create a leadership group, and we've collected all the emails from all the participants that they want to take part on this list. And between them, they're going to be sharing other leadership ideas and collaboration, which I think is amazing from our first
Really?
webinar series. So don't forget, we still have 2 more to go. You don't need to re-register again. You already have the same link is going to be used for the meeting in the month of February and also in the month of March. In February, we're going to be looking at strategic thinking. And soon we'll be sending you an email with all the details of our speakers for the month of February. But till then, we wish you all a very good day, a good year. We're still in January, so we can still say Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you so much again for the 2 ambassadors that they're here with us. It's been a pleasure having you in the audience. And my colleague Yehuda, is a pleasure once more to be working with you all. And we'll see you on the 23rd of February. We'll be seeing you back in here. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. And one parting note from my end. One is, Nuria, it'll be nice if we can have some cameras on and we can do a nice picture of the first session of the seminar series. That's going to be lovely as memories. And second, ladies, whenever you're grappling with any kind of gender-related bias or whatever, just remember this, that vision and leadership have no gender. Always remind yourself that your vision and your leadership will never have any specific gender. So don't give in to any kind of bias. You move on right ahead towards your goal. Right.
Okay, so I saved the pictures of all of those that put the camera on.
Wait.
and lovely smile. So thank you again.
Yeah,
Bye.
one final note, this video, the whole series is recorded. It will be uploaded in YouTube and MCTC's YouTube, so you can refer back also if you want.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.